What's up, gamers? How you doing? My name's John. In this video, I'll be taking a closer look at these 4 new collector guides for gamers. It's part of what they call the Video Game Collector's Field Guide. There are 3 of them that are the guide themselves, and there's the 4th one is the Appendix. And this is by Tristan Ibarra. Appreciate Tristan reaching out to me. I have his other collector's guide as well. This is not his first rodeo doing this, but they did Kickstarter a while ago, and there's like a limited edition version as well. Comes with like a really cool case to put these in. These things are really well built, published by Hagen's Alley, which my good friend Jeff Wittenhagen is a publisher, part of Premium Edition Games as well. I'll put a link to more information if you guys are curious. But each one of these full color guides, you have basically the first one here. By the way, there's over 2,400 pages in total with all 4 of these books. And man, the weight, it's like they're each like 5 pounds, pretty heavy. This is A through R, and it goes through anything from the Atari to really the Xbox, handhelds as well. So I'm sure we'll get some Sega in there as well. Oh no, S would be this one actually. Sega would be this. This is S through Z. The second one, this is probably one of the more thick ones in this series. And you have volume 3 is just dedicated to Nintendo consoles only, going from, of course, the Game & Watch to, of course, classic NES, Famicom, Virtual Boy, up to, Wii U, all that. And then you have the Appendix itself, which is basically a master checklist. I've never seen a series like this so comprehensive, for sure. I mean, there's so many consoles, a lot of obscure consoles that you may or may not have heard of. So for me, I'm a physical guy. I like physical games, and the same is true when it comes to collecting guides like this. Can I go on the internet? Can I go onto Google and find these checklists? I'm sure I can. But I have mad respect for someone like Tristan to go through and put together a novel, something you could display in your game room, something you can go access to. And what's nice, everything's alphabetical as well. So without any further ado, let's take a closer look and kind of see here. This is the Jaguar, and go through each one of these quickly and let me know what you guys think. Thanks for watching, guys. Okay, so here's a closer look at these guides. And I must say, again, the qualities are really impressive. I have the hardcover. I'm not quite sure. I think eventually they're probably going to offer a soft cover version as well. These things aren't cheap, just FYI. They're $6 a piece. I believe the Appendix is $40 US. Because Tristan's in the US, they do not include anything from like PAL regions, any UK games, or anything for Japan or anything like that. These are strictly North American games, just so you know, because that would expand this probably double the size, because there's some exclusive games that are only available in PAL and Japan, etc. So let's do a quick walkthrough over the A through R. Again, here's kind of the back. Shows you kind of the different players. I just love the way this is laid out. I think they did an incredible job. Of course, TurboGrafx 16 is classic. And here you have. So first off the bat, it starts with the Atari 2600, which is, amazing system. Really started all wasn't the first home console, of course, but it was one of the first mainstream ones for sure. And we're getting on to really the 50th anniversary of the Atari, which is crazy to think about. Makes me feel old for sure. But everything is alphabetical, okay, which is nice. And you can kind of use this as a guide to see what games are out there, which is awesome. Of course, E.T. is notoriously one of the worst games, but you have different publishers as well. So here's like the Telegames from Sears, because Sears had their own version of these games, and pretty incredible. Here is the 5200. I remember Congo Bongo, that's classic Return of the Jedi, of course, classic Star Wars Arcade. 5200 wasn't as popular as the 2600, but still played, was backwards compatible, which is nice. Had the same sound chip as the 2600 as well. Just grab your dog. Here's the Jaguar. Atari cards actually have that game, one of the more rare games of Atari cards. One of the characters, Bentley Bear, is in Crystal's Castles. He's one of the characters that you play. It's like Mario Kart clone. One of the more expensive games for the Jaguar. NBA Jam's pretty decent port. Of course, the Jag CD. I actually own a Jag CD that actually works, believe it or not. Primal Rage, I have that game pretty rare as well. Atari 26, Atari Lynx. I had this growing up, I still do. I have both models. I got the Model 1 as a kid, and the sides would wear up. It still works great. Paint would chip off. Came with California games packed in. Only 4 different missions in that, or different games within that. Rampage. Only a few games came out for the Lynx, but first kind of colored handheld came out before the Game Gear. Even the Atari EGS didn't have one of these growing up, but then you get into like the Wanderer Swan Palladium, I mean, some of these games, so this is Japanese, so that's interesting. So I was saying to import before, he does have some Japanese games in here as well, right? I actually have a Play DS system. I don't know if I've done a review on it. I don't have many games for it. Kind of more obscure. It only came out in Japan. Wonder Swan. Wonder Swan had, Final Fantasy games, which was known for. Space Invaders, classic. Here's a Wonder Swan color. The Casio Loopy. I actually have a Loopy. So I was saying before about them not having Japanese games. I stand corrected. There are some Japanese systems in here. So I do. Here we get into my favorite console of all time. Growing up is ColecoVision. And everything's alphabetical. These don't include any homebrews or anything like that. The Appendix does have some games in the homebrew. I'll show you that in a second. But if you're looking for like homebrew games for ColecoVision, there is a pretty diehard community with that. It doesn't have anything like that. The Amiga 32 CD32 rather. And this only came out in Canada. Only came out in, did not come out in the US, interesting enough. But I do have one of these as well. And some of these games are quite hard to find. Lost Vikings, of course. It's a 32-bit system by Amiga, which is Commodore. It was basically a consoleized version of the Amiga, right? The computer. I can't talk right now. The Cougar Boy. I do not have a Cougar Boy. It was like a Game Boy clone. The Adventure Vision. I do not have Adventure Vision. This thing is super expensive, super rare, but plays in red, kind of almost like a Virtual Boy. Very cool. Only 4 games came out for it. He must have done incredible research on this to have these games, though. Pretty incredible. So you definitely have to respect him for this. The Cassette Vision, Super Cassette Vision. This is only in Japan. Mappy, of course. Some of these games were ported to the Famicom, so some of these might look familiar to you. The Fairchild Channel F. I do have one of these. This is one of the first cartridge-based consoles. Has a little bit of history about the console as well as RAM and all that. Games release tells you how many games were released. 24 different games. They kind of look like 8-tracks. The cartridges themselves. Super 70s, which is Scream 70s. Super 8-can. I do have a Super 8-can, which I'm trying to think what game I have for it. Only a handful. GP32. I'm surprised that's on here too. Yeah, GP232, definitely have one of those. Vectrix, which is classic. These are just really good guides to get, like, if you don't know what games to get, or you're kind of curious what consoles are out there more obscure. This is definitely a helpful guide to do that. Each book also has a ribbon as well. You can kind of save your bookmark. Odyssey 2. There's one here that was kind of like, I know they got sued. It was like Munchkin something or other, which crazier is Casey's Munchkin. Yeah, it was, they got sued by Atari, something like that, and it's just kind of funny. You have to play Casey Munchkin right there. It's like Pac-Man, their version of Pac-Man. And in this version, you're eating up like the centipede. It's kind of funny. Hyperscan, but that's crazy they have that. Kind of a console. Here, only a handful of games came out for it. 5 games came out for it. Very short-lived. Intellivision, of course, classic. So I do appreciate this includes consoles that are more obscure, for sure, because it's not just the mainstream ones. Obviously it has them. MSX, which was very popular in Japan. 65 games came out for it. A lot of Konami games. Metal Gear was the first Metal Gear came out for it, for the series, even before the Famicom, so it's kind of what it's known for. Similar to NES graphics. Now you have the Xbox console, 879 US games, those only US titles. And I remember when the original Xbox came out, and it was just classic. Hitman, gotta love that series for sure. Playboy. I didn't even know they had a Playboy game for the Xbox. That's wild. SeaWorld. Some of these games, again, I mean, Road Rage, classic Simpsons game. Shenmue, of course, number 2. Shrek. But yeah, some of these games, down the scope, of course, Star Wars ones, Battlefront 2, one of my favorite ones. Star Wars games out there for sure. Some of the Teenage Mutant Turtle games are okay. Tony Hawk, classic. Tony Hawk. How many different ones? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 different Tony Hawk games for the Xbox. That's wild. Obviously a great series. Xbox 360, 1302. Classic known for the Red Ring of Death, which is unfortunate. But, Battlelands, look at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different Borderlands. Crazy. Look how many Call of Duties. Let's see. How many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 Call of Duties. You have the collections like the Capcom collection. That's interesting. These are all physical games. These aren't Xbox Live games from what I see. You have the Kinect games, of course, as well. I don't see any Xbox Live. These are only physical. Here's an Xbox Live game, maybe. Kinect. Remember the big premiere of the Kinect? I remember that. All these sports titles. Keeps going. Wow. I remember these Burger King games. More Tony Hawk games. And then what else you have? PCFX. Microvision, which is one of the first handheld games. Crazy. You can include that. Talks about the Red Ring of Death. PCFX. That was by the same company, the NEC, who did TurboGrafx or PC Engine games, and it was kind of follow-up to that. Only came out in Japan. Only 62 games were released for it. SuperGrafx, only 7 games, also by PC Engine or NEC. It was kind of upper scale. They had Ghosts and Goblins was probably the one. They call it Damakumaru. I'm probably butchering that, obviously, but really great Ghosts and Goblins port. Or Ghouls and Ghosts, I forget which one. I think it's Ghouls and Ghosts. TurboGrafx, 16. And even the Duo, right? I have Madden for the Duo. Yeah, some of these ones are like Local Girl Bikini Bright, and some of those are probably pretty valuable today. N-Gage, remember this thing? It's like a phone. / N-Gage, Nokia. I have an N-Gage. You can actually play games on it. Pretty wild. This is a Panasonic Real 3DO. There were other companies that made 3DO systems besides Panasonic, but that was the main one. And they were in the long boxes. Need for Speed's a good one. Return Fire. Here's a PC Engine, Philips CDI. Talks about some of the games. Seventh Gas, yep, for sure, absolutely. They had they released some Mario games. One Mario game, Mario Hotel, and 3 Zelda games. Terrible Zelda games because they had an agreement with Nintendo. And here's a different, this is what could have been. This is the Nintendo PlayStation by Sony. Different logos for the PlayStation, how it evolved. I didn't even know any of this, how they evolved. That's cool to know. Actually got to see the Nintendo prototype before in person. The Pioneer Laser Active. These are different Laserdisc games. So this is a really cool book because it includes a lot of different ones. Now, if we go into the S to Z, again, you have some more, and this is even thicker than before. So let me just show you real quick, because if I go through each of these slowly, it would take forever, but you can kind of see a compilation of different consoles, handhelds, different types of cartridges, which is awesome. Game Wave. These are Supervision, Tiger R-Zone, Tiger Gamecom, that's crazy. Those are one of the first touch. This is the Tap Wave, which I have. PS Vita. I actually love the Vita. It's a great. And you have the PSP, Rock Band, remember Unplugged, remember that one. PlayStation 3 games. 2, and then of course you get into 2 had a huge, incredible library. There's had thousands how many games came out for the, let's see if it says here. 1,800 plus. That's crazy. There's no variants, I don't think, in this guide, just so you know. PlayStation 1, also a huge library, supported for 10 years by Sony. Here's the long boxes. This is the Pocket. Oh, color. Neo Geo Pocket Color, yeah. Neo Geo Gold talks about Neo Geo, CD, Neo Geo. This is a CD. 168 games in the Neo Geo. The Game Gear. Dreamcast, Saturn. Sega CD. Then you get into the Genesis, and all these pages are uniquely colored. And then this is the Sega Master System. And then the SG-1000, which only came out in Japan. And the new one. Yeah, this was actual system too. I actually have a new one. Got to find out where it is. It's somewhere in my storage, but I do have a new one. Their Tetris came out for it. It's probably the best well-known Space Invaders and all that good stuff. That's awesome. And then here is the Nintendo one, right? So you notice that they kind of skipped Nintendo on a lot of these. There's one just specifically for Nintendo. So same kind of thing. Here's an ad for premium edition games, a little bit about the authors themselves. Talks about the different arcades. I love the red tent. I actually own one of those. Super cool. Talks about Nintendo in the arcades, the different marquees that they have, and the Super System arcade. I remember that when it came out. And here's a different Play Choice 10, of course, which I own. And great. Some of those games are going for a crazy amount of money now, especially if you get the sign that comes with it. It's incredible. But you can cut. That's the background of it. But of course, you get 3DS. A ton of 3DS games. Game Boy Advance. I don't think this includes Switch because it's too modern. Maybe they don't have Switch games. They don't have PS4 games in the last one either, I noticed. So here's the original Game Boy. Here's Gamecom, or this, I'm sorry, this is Game & Watch. Classic. Wii U. Only a handful, how many Wii U games? 165, not too many Wii U games. It's a weird name. Wii, there's a ton of Wii games, obviously. 1259, a lot more, right? A lot of them are shovelware, to be honest, but there's a few handful of gold ones in there for sure. GameCube. And 64 disk drive, or DD, I actually have one of these. And only 10 games came out for it. I have about 8 of the 10 games. A lot of Mario Artists, which is basically a sequel to Mario Kart. One I have is SimCity, which plays awesome. You can go like street level and like first party and talk to people. It's in Japanese, so it's hard to understand. But yeah, the different console variations for the game. Let's see. It's for a console. Do they have the gold one? No, they don't. The Toys R Us version. Interesting, but they had so many different variations of N64. I just saw a new documentary on a side note called the Nintendo 64 Quest. Really well done. It's by the same guys who did Nintendo Quest, and the goal was to find all N64 games in, I think it was like, I forget the time frame, 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and it was incredible. You have to watch it. It's a great documentary, great series. Super Nintendo, and then of course the NES. Classic. I think there's like 800 games in the NES. 677. Interesting. I thought there were more than that. But there's a lot of variants, I guess, that's not included. And the last one is the Appendix, Volume 4. Let's take a closer look at this. And basically, this is like a lot of the different homebrew games, different games from different publishers, Fishy, Face Games. Also includes games from Time Wave Games, for example, Super Nintendo and NES both, even some Genesis ones. And then this is your checklist. This is where the appendix, so you have kind of a checklist. You can kind of check mark what you have, whether it's in owned or played or rent, whatever you want, played, etc. You can checklist what you want. Everything's alphabetical, so you can kind of see the dark edge here. It ends. So it's really that nice. I think, again, really impressed with the series. Let me know what you guys think. Thank you for watching, guys. We'll see you guys soon. Take care, and game on.